if there are people out there who are, you know, considering maybe blowing the whistle on something, or whether they're involved in government or military or even a corporation, and they're scared and worried about it, what advice would you give to someone who feels like there's something that America needs to know, but they're maybe holding back?
Well, I'm certain that there are thousands and thousands of people in the government, and that's not a over-exaggerated notion, who have exactly that feeling about the disastrous nature of our Iraqi involvement, and they felt that before we got in. They see it now. They can see what most of the country sees. I notice the majority of the country feels we're failing in Vietnam, where no more troops will make any difference, and so forth. For once, I'm not always with the majority, but in this case I am. People inside can see that easily. Well, they don't have some secret information that makes it all look okay. So the question is, as they see us going ahead toward over the cliff here, or into the quagmire, the question for them is what to do about it. I think this movie, that's why I'm delighted to do some promotion for it, even though it's not my movie at all, I didn't make it, has the chance of really getting some of them certainly to consider, and some of them to take some risks in order to tell the truth that they feel in their own minds. If they're supporters of the policy, no problem. Lying or keeping secrets in order to support it. That's what government officials do. But there's a little conflict there if they know that this policy is awful, as it is, as a matter of fact. So what to do about that? And I think the movie could put it in their heads that someone not different from them. I was a government official like everybody else, you know, or a researcher, consultant. They'll recognize me in that movie as someone very like them, who kept his mouth shut too long, just as most of them have done. So I know what that feels like. The risks of speaking out are real. I would not underestimate those for the people. I was lucky in many ways in escaping from what Nixon really wanted to do to me, which is put me in prison forever. Not forever. With good behavior, I would have gotten out last year after 35 years. But the risks are very real, and the risks are, again, I was very lucky in my wife, who was a partner in this. The pressures of this did not split us apart. That's a very common result of whistleblowing. So these are very serious. Children's education, if your career is truncated like that, and all that. And being called a traitor, something just unimaginable for people like that, who, like myself, thought we were serving the country, being as patriotic, you know, being more patriotic than the usual, probably. And the idea of being called a traitor is bad, and it's what they'll get, actually. So the costs are strong. The stakes are enormous. There's a war's worth of lives at stake. Endless numbers, really, of Americans and Afghanis, Iraqis, 1.5 million Iraqis dead from our operations, 1.5 million. Our country has not absorbed that catastrophe in those terms, and that could lie ahead for Afghanistan. So on the one hand, but what they tell themselves is there's no chance of little me affecting that, you know, of my doing it. They're wrong about that. The movie, of course, shows an unusual example, actually bringing down a president who was determined to keep the war going and to escalate it, and so forth. And that wasn't my initial intent. Actually, I didn't realize early on how determined Nixon was. I hoped initially that Nixon himself might change his policy. That was an illusion, but that's what I thought when I first started copying the papers. But I wouldn't say that, well, it was impossible with Nixon, but with somebody else it might not have been impossible. My point is that if you take those risks, the kind of risks as a civilian that some of the same people might have taken routinely as soldiers when they were soldiers in another war, risks of their lives, risks of their bodies, if they're willing to take a risk of their career as a civilian, they can have a very great effect and save a great many lives. And this picture, this film, is a very unusual example of something that can put that in their heads. I actually think that if this were seen inside the Pentagon widely, or CIA or the White House, people would not flock to become candidates for 115-year possible prison sentence. But there would be more than zero, and there would be more than one, I think, who would say, of course that's worth it if it really can have that effect. That was the, now I did this without any strong sense of what the effect would be. The example in my case with people who were taking these risks, who were going to prison, draft resistors. They were going to prison hardly with any expectation they would end the war. And yet the ones who set an example for me did play some role in ending the war, just as I did. So I do think that's the advice I would give them. Don't do what I did. Don't wait till the bombs are falling. Don't wait till the war has started. Don't wait till the next 45,000 troops have gone to Afghanistan. If you know, and if you feel you know, and you have data that indicates that this war is hopeless, infeasible, and that people will be killed and will die for nothing, then share those truths with Congress and with the public at whatever cost to yourselves. Do what I wish I had done much earlier in 1964 or 65. Give those truths to Congress and the press, and they may have no effect, but they may have a very great effect. And it could save an awful lot of lives.